My name is Adam, and I clean skulls for a living. That's the short version. That's what the job listing said anyway. Skull Cleaner Preservation Department, Paris. I found it on a forum where people talk about things like haunted tourism, abandoned castles, and the occasional cult internship. It wasn't on LinkedIn. The long version needs more explaining. I didn't grow up thinking I'd end up here, but looking back, it probably should have been obvious. I was always more interested in the past than the present. Not in a nostalgic way, not about the good old days. I mean the real past, places where the walls are older than the language I'm speaking, objects that outlive the people who made them, things like that. I studied history at university. I graduated with a degree and a heavy amount of student debt. The plan was to do something respectable, teach maybe, or work in a museum if I was lucky. But I had a habit of drifting. It started in my freshman year, maybe even earlier. I'd fall into deep corners of the internet at 3 in the morning, reading strange threads about cursed houses, unmarked graves, the odd side of city planning, places that don't appear on maps. I joined the Paranormal Research Club halfway through my first year, partly because someone handed me a flyer shaped like a coffin, and partly because I had nothing better to do on Thursday nights. The club wasn't very active. A small group of us met in the student union basement and shared links, watched low-budget documentaries, or printed blurry photos we found online. Someone brought a Ouija board once. It didn't work. Mostly, it was just sitting around with people who liked the same kind of weird I did. Somewhere along the way, I stopped going to class as much and started reading more about things that never showed up on exams. Bone churches in Eastern Europe, archaeology sites shut down without explanation, occult symbols carved into public structures. I wrote my final paper on the use of human remains in historical architecture and got a polite email from my professor that said, disturbing, but well cited. After graduation, I applied for normal jobs. Nothing worked out. No interviews, no callbacks. I figured that was normal, since my friends were struggling too. The only thing that felt real was the forum for haunted tourism jobs. I think it started as a joke, but people posted real listings, very specific ones: graveyard security, night museum watch, personal assistant to an energy healer, on a mountain in Norway. Then I saw the one in Paris. Skull cleaner, no description, no contact name, just an address, a time, and one instruction: bring gloves. I booked the cheapest one, way flight I could find. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't really have anyone to tell. I had a few old classmates I hadn't talked to in a year. Some people from the club who still shared links sometimes. My parents thought I was teaching overseas, and I didn't correct them. I showed up at the address, a side entrance near the edge of the city, and gave my name to a man in an orange vest who never looked up from his clipboard. He pointed at a locked gate, buzzed it open, and that was it. I was in, so now I live in Paris. Technically, my apartment is a 10-minute walk from the entrance, above a closed bakery that smells like stone and burnt sugar. My job is to keep the bones clean, dust them, check for mold, report damage. I have a cart. I have a logbook. I have a set of brushes meant for marble restoration that I use on femurs. It's not what I planned, but it makes sense. In its own way, it makes more sense than anything else I've done. I met Lena in my second week. Management said we'd be working together on night shifts. They didn't ask. They handed me a printed schedule and said, "Buddy systems not optional." Then they pointed to the break room, where she was already sitting and eating lunch. She stood up as soon as I walked in, like I was a teacher or customer. She's short and always looks like she's just remembered something important. Big eyes, neat hair, coat too clean for the job. She shook my hand and introduced herself like she was in an interview. "Elena, I'll be your assigned partner this week. They said I should review the safety points with you again." We sat at a folding table while she pulled out a notebook filled with bullet points. She went through the rules in order. No phones in the tunnels unless it's a real emergency. Don't split up. Stay on marked routes unless assigned to maintenance. Never enter service shafts without calling it in. Don't answer if you hear someone calling your name from an unlit corridor. That last one wasn't on the official list, but she said it like it should have been. She spoke quickly, like she was rushing through a presentation. I nodded. When she paused, I asked how long she'd been working there. She said 12 days, but she already knew all the maps and protocols. I asked why she took the job. She glanced at her notebook and said, "It'll help me get into museums. Lena wants to be a museum guide. The real kind, in the famous Paris museums with velvet ropes and white walls. Those jobs are hard to get, and she needed experience tied to a big name. Officially, we work for the city's historical preservation department, and this counts. Unofficially, we clean bones, fix signs, and make sure nothing strange reaches the tourist areas. The Paris Catacombs are split into two sections. The public side is where people take photos, with clean lighting, safety rails, plaques in several languages, and a ticket booth upstairs. Lena works there during the day as a guide. She wears the uniform and explains the history, how it used to be a dumping ground during the plague, a massive cemetery for the dead. Now it's a preserved historical site. Over 6 million skeletons moved underground by hand, arranged into walls and displays. A museum made of bones. People love that line. The second part is ours, the closed areas. Most of the catacombs are off limits, even to workers, but people still get in. Urban explorers, YouTubers, locals looking for a place to drink. Sometimes we find candles, sometimes graffiti, sometimes bones moved out of place. When that happens, we clean it or report it. The tunnels are a maze. Old shafts, half-collapsed corridors, hidden rooms no one has mapped in decades. Sometimes we're sent to check if a wall is stable. Other times we're assigned cleaning or repairs. I do most of the cleaning. Lena handles the public-facing work. At night, we go everywhere together. Lena isn't good with the dark. She won't say it, but she tenses every time we leave the main path. She carries 2 flashlights and taps one against her palm when she's nervous. She never forgets the checklist. She never breaks protocol. She asks if I heard something even when I didn't. She isn't built for this place, but she stays. I respect that. I don't mind working with her. She's organized, careful, and easy to talk to once she relaxes. She's also close to my age. Most of the other workers keep to themselves. Some barely speak. No one seems to stay long. We're scheduled together almost every week now. Same shifts, same sections, same rules. The deeper we go, the stranger it gets. But as long as we stick to the job, it's fine. That's what they tell us. Just stick to the job. And with any job, there are rules. There are a few you should know if you want to survive this place, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to explain why the rules exist at all. About a month in, we were pulled off our usual shift. Lena got the call first, a short voicemail from someone who didn't give a name. 5 minutes later, I got the same message. Mandatory briefing. Sublevel 2A, 6 p.m. Don't be late. Sublevel 2A wasn't on any map Lena had. We had to be buzzed in by a silent man who just held the door and pointed. The hallway beyond was bare concrete. No signs, no labels. Just buzzing lights and the smell of bleach barely covering dampness. There were 6 of us inside. 4 workers we didn't know, and the 2 of us. Everyone was quiet. The people by the far wall wore black jackets and heavy boots. There was a patch on their sleeves I'd never seen before, a book and a hammer stitched in gold. One of them turned off the lights. The hum stopped. The room dropped into deep underground silence. We'll keep this short. You've been working above active ground. You need to understand what that means, he said. He placed a binder on the table. There's an old presence down here, Predators as smart as you and me. They use the tunnels. They draw people in. Tourists, explorers, workers who forget protocol. If you hear something strange, you log it and leave. If someone wanders, you don't follow. You call it in. They handed out papers. The heading read, Preservation Department Tier 3 Protocols for Handling the Undead. Below it was a list of rules I'd never seen before. One word was underlined in red, vampires. These rules aren't optional, he said. You follow them every time, you don't test them. Then the lights came back on. We were told to leave through the back door and tell no one. No one ever mentioned it again. The rules stayed in our lockers. And we followed them. A part of me wishes we hadn't stayed that first month. The rules weren't posted anywhere public. You only got them after the briefing. But once you had them, you noticed older workers following them without question. Our uniforms were plain, gray, no logos, stiff collars and cuffs. They looked like lab coats mixed with jumpsuits. Lena's didn't fit well. The sleeves were too long. Mine scratched at the neck and swished when I walked. But the seams were different. I noticed it in the locker room. I turned my jacket inside out and saw a faint shine along the stitching. The threads weren't normal. They were metal. Real metal woven into the fabric. I asked an older worker, Gerard, if his jacket was the same. He didn't look up, just said, silver weave, keeps you safe. That was all. The pants had it too. Thin silver threads from ankle to waist. Every piece of the uniform had it, even the gloves. According to the rules, silver scatters a vampire's vision. Lena explained it better. To them, someone in uniform doesn't appear clearly. Your shape flickers, broken, like a bad video. They can't focus on you easily. It reminded me of those jackets that scramble security cameras. To people, they look normal. To cameras, they blur. The uniforms weren't mass-produced. They were made by the curators, the ones who ran the deeper levels. We never saw them. The uniforms arrived once a month, sealed and folded. You weren't allowed to wear your own clothes below. If you had to change, you did it in a sealed room with a drain in the floor. Older staff followed that rule strictly. I once saw a man named Louis refuse to enter a tunnel because someone forgot their jacket. He stood there with his arms crossed until the other guy went back upstairs and returned in full uniform. At the time, I thought they were being paranoid. Then, a few weeks later, I saw something. Lena and I were in corridor B13, doing a late shift inspection after a group of urban explorers triggered a motion sensor. The tunnel was quiet. I was sweeping the floor for scattered trash, standing near one of the old bone walls, the kind where skulls were stacked neatly like bricks. Everything looked untouched. No signs of anyone getting in. I leaned closer to adjust one of the small marker flags used to tag loose stones. That's when I felt it. Someone was watching me. I didn't move right away. I just tilted my head slightly, squinting into the empty eye sockets of one skull. In the narrow gaps between the bones, just for a second, I saw something blink. Then it was gone. When I turned to tell Lena, she was already holding her flashlight tightly, like a weapon. She didn't ask what I saw. She only said, "You're wearing the full uniform, right?" I nodded to calm her. "Yeah, full gear." "Okay, then let's keep moving," she said. We didn't talk about it again that night. The next rule was something they told us to follow even before the briefing with the strange men in black. It was the buddy system, no matter where we went. Out of all the rules, this one seemed the most normal. Basic safety. 2 people per shift. Stay where you can see each other. Radio check every 15 minutes. Most jobs have a rule like this, especially in places with darkness or dangerous drops. No one goes into the maintenance tunnels alone. Not even the long-term workers. Even the quiet ones who barely speak always wait for their partner before heading down. If someone calls in sick, their partner gets reassigned, no exceptions. If you show up without your assigned partner, you're sent away at the locker room door. The tourist tunnels are different. They're clean, bright, reinforced, and monitored. There are cameras, guards, signs. and a small office with coffee and heat lamps. You can walk those tunnels without thinking. Lena knows every step by heart. She could give a tour with her eyes closed. But the tourist section is only a small part of the whole place. Everything else, the areas without lights, signs, or brochures, is our responsibility. That's where the walls sweat, where the floors dip and rise, where sounds don't echo the way they should. They call them maintenance tunnels, but that's generous. Most were never meant to be walked through. Narrow mining veins, old hand, carved routes from the 1700s, dug when bones were stacked by candlelight. You can't see how far they go. Some are so steep you have to crawl. Others open into old chambers where no one knows who moved the bones or when. That's why the buddy system matters, and why supervisors get strict when new workers forget. But I didn't truly understand it until the night Lena and I got separated. It was meant to be an easy cleanup. Someone, probably a private tour group, had broken into a deeper corridor and left trash behind. Food wrappers, candle wax, broken bottles. Nothing serious. We'd handled jobs like this before. I grabbed the cleaning kit. Lena took the marker flags, and we checked in at the B sector gate around 11 at night. The entry tunnel felt normal. Damp, narrow, cold. Our boots echoed on stone as our flashlights lit just enough of the path to follow the arrow tags on the walls. We reached the marked corridor in about 20 minutes. There was a small pile of trash, a few disturbed bones, and an old LED lantern left behind. Easy work. I tapped the lantern. Nothing happened. Behind me, Lena swore quietly. Mine just died. She said, I turned, you have the backup. I asked, no, I thought you. Then her voice cut off. At the same time, the wall lights in that section went dark. The low-powered lamps that usually stayed on were completely dead. We were standing in a tight pocket of darkness, with no light except the faint glow from my watch. Okay, stay still. I'll walk back toward you, she said. Her voice answered from farther away than I expected. I'm already walking to you. Then I heard her voice again from the other side of the tunnel, deeper in, like it was being played through a speaker. Lena, I called. Here, came the reply from the left. I turned and followed. The tunnel split. I took the left path, sure I was heading the right way. My footsteps sounded too loud. I walked for what felt like a minute before hitting a dead end, just packed stone. No bones, no markings, nothing. I turned back. Lena. No answer. I shouted louder. Still nothing. Then I heard her again, faint, distant, like from another room. I couldn't tell if it was ahead or behind me anymore. Later, Lena told me what happened on her side. In a connecting tunnel deeper in, she'd stopped walking too. She smelled something at first faint, then stronger. My cologne. That made her think I'd gone another way, so she followed it. But the smell slowly changed, from sharp and familiar to sweet, then too sweet, rotting sweet, like flowers left too long in water, baking in the sun. When the smell shifted, she stopped, took a step back. Then she called my name, no answer. That's when we both realized we were lost. I retraced my steps. She did the same. We met back at the last place we'd both been, the pile of bottles and food wrappers, somehow darker than before. We stood there silently, checking each other for injuries. After a moment, she smacked her flashlight against her palm. The light flickered on. Mine buzzed back to life a few seconds later. We didn't talk on the walk back. I felt her shoulder brush against mine as she walked. She was shaking. At the checkpoint, the guard asked how it went. I said it was fine and the cleanup was finished. Lena stayed quiet until we reached the locker room. She sat on the bench across from me and said, "The smell changed. I thought it was your cologne. Then it turned awful, like something dying." I nodded. "I heard your voice calling me from the left. I walked straight into a dead end." She looked at me and said, "They said the monsters use sound." I nodded again. "I think they use smell too. That was when we finally understood what the buddy system was really for. Down there, your senses don't work right. Sounds stretch and twist. Smells move where they shouldn't. The deeper you go, the more it feels like the place wants you separated. And something down there wants you alone. I made sure to keep Lena close after that. The next rule said to listen to the animals. It was a strange one. At first, it didn't make sense. The others felt logical. Uniforms, partners, schedules, check-ins. This one simply said, listen to the animals. There wasn't much explanation. Just a short note scribbled on the back of a page. If animals are present, the space is safe. They even made it rhyme, which only made Lena memorize it faster. She'd whisper it sometimes during rounds, and I'd tease her about it. To most people, it sounds like old superstition. Something passed down without reason, like holding your breath near graves or avoiding certain steps. It feels that way until you start noticing the animals yourself. There were stray cats in the upper levels, mostly near the tourist sections. They slipped through cracks in the stone, tails high, vanishing between bone walls without a sound. Some had names. Lena kept a list and greeted them when she saw them. They always looked healthy, well-fed, like the catacombs cared for them. Dogs showed up sometimes too. The older workers let them follow during inspections. No one owned them, but they always returned. They never barked or growled, just watched everything. Seeing one felt like a gift. I'm a dog person. Even when they appeared in strange places, behind doors or near loose brick piles, we were glad they were there. Deeper down, we saw bats, usually in wide chambers with high ceilings. They didn't bother us. Lena didn't like them, but she knew better than to complain. If bats were there, it meant the tunnel was still safe. I once saw a mole, just a blur of movement between cracks in a low wall, gone almost instantly. As long as animals are nearby, you're not in the worst areas yet. That's how it works down there. You can get lost. You can lose your map or light or sense of direction. But if a cat brushes past your leg or a bat flaps overhead, you can breathe and keep going. Animals don't stay where the vampires are. The week I truly understood that rule, I wasn't even working. I was upstairs in the break room. Lena and I had just finished a routine tunnel check. Nothing unusual. I was halfway through a cup of vending machine coffee, sandwich in hand, gear already stored. I was sitting with a few other workers, talking about tennis matches. Then the door flew open, and someone came in crying. It was Jen, a new tour guide who'd started about a week after me. She was always smiling, the kind of person who brought her own flashlight even when she didn't need to. She once told me she wanted to become a preservation lead. She liked the quiet tunnels. She didn't say anything as she entered. She just stood there shaking, then leaned against the wall like her legs couldn't carry her anymore. One of the veterans, Bernard, I think, got up without asking and walked over to her. A few of us moved closer when the tears really started. I listened as she finally spoke, her words coming out in short gasps between breaths. She said she had found a cat. It was down near one of the tourist exits, lying perfectly still in the middle of a narrow passage, half hidden between two display walls. The body wasn't damaged. Its eyes were wide open, and its fur was clean. Then she said it felt cold when she touched it. She said the cat felt hollow, like all the life had been pulled out of it. And that's when she noticed the marks on its neck and the slow spreading of blood beneath it, the longer she stood there. Jen said she didn't stay. She turned around the moment she realized something was wrong. But not before she saw it, something pulling the cat's body away with a pale hand and long claws. She watched the blood streak across the floor, then she ran. The veterans nodded and stayed with her, calm and steady, while her supervisor asked why she hadn't been with her assigned partner. Lena rubbed her back as she cried. Later, I found the rule sheet again and reread that line. When an animal corpse appears, it means a vampire den is nearby. After that, I started carrying treats in my pack, handing them out to any cat or dog I passed in the tunnels. They seem to protect us in their own way, and now I try to return the favor. Rule 4 is simple. Don't get bitten. It sounds obvious, like it wouldn't need to be said. But down in the catacombs, getting bitten doesn't mean what most people think. You don't turn into a vampire. You don't wake up with fangs and a cape. You turn into something else entirely, something the older workers call a spawn. They don't talk about it much. I only knew the word because it was written near the back of the emergency manual. A spawn is what's left after the vampires take what they need. It's not exactly death. Your body keeps moving, but it's no longer yours. Your thoughts fade. Your voice disappears. Your muscles stiffen. Your mouth hangs open, and your eyes stop seeing the way they should. A spawn is a walking body with just enough mind left to follow orders. They don't speak. They don't hesitate, but they suffer. They do whatever the vampires tell them: chase, drag, guard, warn. They're dangerous, and they carry a deep hatred for the people who still get to live in the light they once knew. Most of the time, we don't see them. The job avoids that kind of contact whenever possible. But sometimes a spawn appears when something goes wrong. One day, a child went missing. Oliver Jones, 7 years old. Last seen wearing a red jacket with a Toy Story character on it. It happened during a large tour group that should never have been approved. Too many guests, not enough guides. We aren't supposed to exceed capacity, but it happens. A school group came in late, and the manager let them squeeze into a guided route to avoid complaints. The tunnels were already crowded when the tour started. Alina was working that shift during the day. I wasn't. I was in a back corridor, cataloging equipment before my night shift. The news spread fast. A child had wandered off, 7 years old, red jacket. The group didn't realize until the end when they counted heads and came up short. Missing kids are rare, but they're treated seriously. The bureau gets involved. Sections locked down. Radio traffic spikes. We're trained for it, but Lena didn't wait for instructions. She went in alone. She said she thought she'd seen the kid earlier, lagging behind the group. Said she might know where he'd gone and would only be gone 5 minutes. She took her flashlight and a disposable map and entered the southern tunnel wing. Her radio cut out not long after. I grabbed my gear and followed. Buddy system. It doesn't stop mattering just because things are bad. The tunnel she entered was part of a newer maintenance section, built in the 1940s but never completed. Straight lines, narrow branches, sudden dead ends. The walls were rough, the ceilings sagging in places. No one was meant to be alone there. I moved slowly, calling her name every few steps. No answer. I followed the orange rope she'd laid out behind her, tied to a hook near the last safe point. About 15 minutes in, I heard something ahead. I turned the corner and saw her. Lena was on her back in the middle of the corridor, her flashlight still on, the beam aimed at the ceiling. Her legs were still. One hand twitched weakly. Crouched over her was something I didn't understand at first. It looked human, thin, pale, hunched, but its jaw hung open too wide, like it was broken. Its hands were planted on either side of her as its head jerked toward her throat. I didn't think. I raised the emergency sidearm from my belt and fired one silver round. It hit the spawn in the shoulder. It shrieked, a sound like metal scraping against wet stone, and fled before I could fire again. It disappeared into the dark, leaving a long smear of blackened blood across the tunnel floor. I dropped beside Lena. Her eyes were open, full of tears, but she was breathing. I checked her neck and arms. No bite marks, no punctures. Her radio was destroyed. Her gloves were missing, but she was alive. She clung to me as she broke down, and I carried her out of the tunnel. Later, when she was calmer, we walked back together, following the rope the entire way. The bureau had already arrived. They took our statements, sealed the tunnel, and sent us home for the rest of the shift. The boy was never found. His parents went public. The story spread from local news to national coverage. His red jacket was everywhere for weeks. Search teams flooded the tunnels with dogs, drones, and rescue crews. They found nothing, not even his shoes. Lena quit that month. She said goodbye and left a note in her locker. I didn't blame her. She was brave and smarter than people realized. But something about that moment shattered her trust in the place. She never fully recovered from it. I've been at this job for 6 months now. I still keep the rule sheet in my locker. The paper is curling at the edges, and the ink is fading where I folded it too many times. I don't need to read it anymore. I know every line by memory, but I like knowing it's there. Lena and I still talk. Every now and then, I send her a photo of one of the tunnel cats. She always laughs. She says she misses the cats more than the job. She's doing well now. We're meeting for coffee later this week. Last I heard, we both got promoted. Lena works at the National Museum now, guiding tours the way she always wanted to, vampires excluded. As for me, I'm not a cleaner anymore. A few months ago, I became a surveyor. The title sounds impressive, but the work is similar. Go deeper, document, report, repeat. Now I'm the one marking new routes, logging shifts, recording small anomalies. The parts of the catacombs that never made it onto maps are mine for now. I spend most of my time where cell signals die, and the walls haven't been touched in decades. My new partner is named Nathan. He's sharp, careful, and quiet in the right way. Turns out he went to the same school I did, just a few years later. History major, folklore minor. He knows what matters. We've already found 3 unrecorded vaults and a hidden alcove no one remembers building. The bones inside were stacked in a spiral, like a sundial. Some nights we hear things, not often. But when we do, we follow the rules. The catacombs are old, older than the streets above, older than most maps and records, maybe older than Paris itself. They shift, they hide, they remember. I've learned how to move through them carefully. There's more down here than anyone wants to admit, and I'm not done looking.